Springfield's Talk 1041. It is Wednesday. Welcome to the show, everyone. My name is Nick Reed. Streaming live, KSGF.com. Also on YouTube, you can watch us there, and that is Springfield's Talk 1041, and you can share it, watch it later if you want to. It's just there for your taking anytime that you'd like. A lot of different announcements yesterday deal with Pfizer that is intended to lower drug prices for Americans, and others are expected to be coming to the White House, CEOs of other drug companies, in the next couple of weeks, according to Trump. Drug prices are one of those things that, on a wide scale, no one has ever tackled in a way that brought about meaningful results. During the first Trump administration, he had, when it comes to insulin, those prices come down dramatically. Biden, of course, tried to take credit for that. But this is on a wide scale. And the issue of government interfering when it comes to the pricing of products, specifically pharmaceuticals, is one that it isn't as simple, unfortunately, as the free market system. It's a bit like the tariff issue, in which you've got what is proposed as the debate with tariffs. Those that say, no, we should not impose any tariffs because it should be completely, an open system, free market, free trade. And then those that say, no, we should utilize tariffs in order to try to better deal the situation. Well, the problem with the concept of, quote, free trade is that when you're the only one participating in it, you don't really have free trade. And so other countries aren't playing the same game. It's similar to people who, claim, well, they talk about our medical system as one of, quote, capitalism, and that's where the problems are. We don't have a free capitalistic medical system in this country. It is so twisted and so far from that. When it comes to prescription drugs, the concept of a free market system is not at play because the market system is the world, and you have all of these other countries that have told these pharmaceutical companies, all right, yes, you can sell your prescription, you can drugs in our market, you can have access to all these people, but in order to do so, you can only charge this much. Well, who ends up subsidizing that? It's going to be the countries that don't put price controls on things. And that's one of the reasons that the United States has been dealing with the higher cost of prescription drugs, because other countries don't allow access to their markets unless essentially we subsidize the pharmaceuticals for the people in their countries. And Trump recognized that is where the problem is, and so that's the approach we're going to take in dealing with this. We're going to just essentially recognize that there is no free market system because other countries that are marketplaces don't have free market systems, and so we just want to be treated like everyone else. And that is an approach, like it or not, that has brought some of these pharmaceutical companies to the table saying, okay, we'll make these changes. Trump's a deal maker. And once again, we're seeing deals made. Yesterday, he also signed off on additional funding for childhood cancer, which I guess now means Democrats are going to support childhood cancer. It's going to be interesting to see them come out in favor of that, given that Trump is not only opposed to childhood cancer, but has authorized dollars in order to really try and ramp up research in order to fight and perhaps one day even eliminate childhood cancer. So as crazy as it seems to believe that Democrats would support childhood cancer, there have been many things that I thought they would never come out in support of, but because Trump was for them, then they were against it, or vice versa. So childhood cancer probably is somehow going to be the next one on slate. And a lot of audio. This Pete Hegseth yesterday talking to the generals, and it's being framed not inaccurately, but as well, pumping up the standards. In reality, it's really going back to the standards that were in play when we were more focused, when we viewed our military as having the purpose of being the biggest, the baddest, the most effective, the one that most effectively can break things and kill people. And as you know, over time, it has instead turned into sort of like this little social playground for the left, a country club of the rich left elites in which you get these political appointees that have left-wing ideology oozing from their pores into positions of power and have just really culturally weakened our military to a significant degree. And this is correcting things. So as you can imagine, the left is upset by this, perplexed. Already you have Islamic groups that are pushing back, claiming that the grooming standards that Hegseth spoke of yesterday and reinstating the traditional grooming standards instead of having the distractions of everybody gets to express themselves individually with their haircuts and this and that and so forth. And no, we're going back to uniformity on this. Well, these Islamic organizations are already starting to pitch a fit that it may violate their religious beliefs, and their religious beliefs in Islam should override what it is that is the focus of our U.S. military. The Pyramid Roofing Company text line is 417-447-KSGF. Now the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First, meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see mostly sunny skies with a high near 88. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 62. For your Thursday, sunny with a high near 88. And taking a look at Friday, sunny with a high near 87.
Okay, my apologies here as I'm I came into the studio this morning just right before the intro music started, and
You
so
really did. I was
I
getting kind of
know.
nervous.
I got nervous when I looked at the clock and saw what time it was, and
I
thought,
mean, I would have came and got you.
spaghettios. Well, you wouldn't have had much time because we were like 20 seconds from the intro music starting.
It's fine. I
Uh,
would have got you anyways.
okay, let me find Hegseth yesterday. So this is a bit of what Hegseth had to say. And, there was a lot of, as usual, this announcement of bringing the Department of War generals all together and the media. Oh, this is unprecedented. My God, what's happening? And it is on notice, essentially a culture shift and a focus shift, and focusing back on the things that were the focus when the number one priority for our military was to be the best at breaking things and killing people. We've clearly diverted off of that. We talked about it to some degree yesterday. Aside from just overall standards, which the Biden administration continued to lower because they could not hit those recruitment marks. And the fact that as soon as Trump got elected and Hegseth is put into this position, and you can just the country, particularly young people who were perhaps interested in joining the military, immediately the election changed recruitment. Immediately began hitting the marks way ahead of time. That tells you something. That right then and there was a recognition amongst many people in this country who ultimately wanted to serve the country in a meaningful way, recognized the damage that had been done to our military under the previous administration. I mean, look at Afghanistan. Look, you had Lloyd Austin just disappeared for months at a time, and Biden, I mean, we're told he didn't know, or he claimed he didn't know that he was gone. But then, of course, we're like, well, maybe it was the dementia. Maybe maybe he did know, but he forgot that he knew. And and no one person ever held accountable, be it for Afghanistan or Lloyd Austin just up and disappearing, nobody knowing where he was. No one in the military suffered any sort of punishment because of failures under the Biden administration, which that alone sent the message domestically as well as to the rest of the world that really there were at that time no standards in our military, none. Or if there were standards, they were so low, even mass atrocities like the completely unforced error of Afghanistan, that was written off as a success. You and I recognize it for, as did the rest of the world, such an embarrassing debacle that I think we forget that the Biden administration went so far as to claim that it was a success. It was the single greatest rescue ever in the history of... Well, yeah, because you created one of the single largest disasters overnight. And that really sent a signal that even what if there are or were standards during that administration, they were so low that Afghanistan and some of the other instances didn't even reach the bottom yet. And Trump getting elected president, just that in and of itself immediately, and you saw it in the recruitment skyrocketing. People knew things were going to change, and we were going to get back to a military that that veterans could feel secure watching their children and grandchildren enlist in. Pete Hegseth yesterday standing on stage and this auditorium filled with military personnel talking about getting back to those standards.
And why today, at my direction, And this is the first of 10 Department of War directives that are arriving at your commands as we speak and in your inbox. Today, at my direction, each service will ensure that every requirement for every combat MOS, for every designated combat arms position, returns to the highest male standard only. Because this job is life or death. Standards must be met. And not just met, at every level, we should seek to exceed the standard, to push the envelope, to compete. It's common sense and core to who we are and what we do. It should be in our DNA. Today, at my direction, we are also adding a combat field test for combat arms units that must be executable in any environment at any time and with combat equipment. These tests, they'll look familiar. They'll resemble the Army Expert Physical Fitness Assessment or the Marine Corps Combat Fitness Test. I'm also directing that warfighters in combat jobs execute their service fitness test at a gender-neutral, age-normed male standard scored above 70%. Frankly, it's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon. This also means grooming standards. No more beards, long hair, superficial individual expression. We're going to cut our hair, shave our beards, and adhere to standards. No more beardos. Simply put, if you do not meet the male-level physical standards for combat positions, cannot pass a PT test, or don't want to shave and look professional, it's time for a new position.
Now, I think, too, the average person, this seems like standard stuff. Doesn't it to you?
Yeah, it's pretty standard.
Yeah, this is, what's sad is that this has not been the standard. This is like basic entry-level stuff, one would think. Now, it should also be noted that he is, and with reason, talking specifically about combat troops. And a lot of this is because of the situational environment and the need maybe to throw on a gas mask while you're in combat. And if you have a beard, it makes it not effective. And a certain other physical choices that people might make regarding headwear or I think yarmulkes, for example, for Jewish soldiers were allowed, but not in combat because it can make the helmet not fit as securely. And so these moves that are being made are being specifically targeted when it comes to combat, because that's where, and that's the point, that's where it has the impact. If you are sitting back here in the United States flying a drone or working at some sort of office job that to the overall operation of the military is significant and important, it may not be something that is necessary for you in terms of some of these standards because it doesn't have an impact on how you do your job. But that ultimately is what all of this is about. Having standards in place that require just a bare minimum ability to, while in combat, be able to survive and thrive. There is with this painted into a corner that the left has gotten themselves into, because of course they're already pitching a fit about much of this, and where the left finds themselves backed into a corner that they created is when it comes to having requirements, the physical requirements, as you noted. He's talking about for men, that all standards will now be what the men's standards have been. And the instinct, and many Democrats have already complained about this, that nutjob senator from Hirono grilled Hegseth before a committee the week before last, I believe it was, on the unfairness of requiring women to do the same amount of pull-ups or chin-ups as men, citing the fact that many women have told her that, well, that's too hard for them. They can't do that. Now, this is the same political party that tells us that there's no physical difference between men and women. that girls should be forced, even as young as high school or in college, to compete against men because there's no evidence whatsoever that there's a physical advantage to being a man. To being a man. Well, now they are in this position where they have staked out this argument as the Democrat Party that physically speaking, it is not any more difficult for a woman to do something than it is for a man, that they're on equal footing. Or if there is, they just need to try harder. But now, okay, when it comes to the military, we're going to have the exact same standard. Well, now, wait, we can't do that. That's going to discriminate against women. Now, the reality is, of course, that on average, it is easier for men to do certain things physically than it is for women. And some people will say, well, that's discriminatory then. It is. It is discriminating based on ability. The United States military has a purpose, and it's not a country club. It's not a social club. It's not to make everyone feel equitable. That's not the point. There are plenty of safe spaces for people who want to live in that environment. Oh, but these are people who, and we've heard this, particularly when it comes to the trans thing. I mean, it's just not fair. These are people who want to serve their countries. The military is not there to fulfill somebody's desire to serve the country. It's fantastic if that is why people sign up to serve in our military, but that's not why it exists. It isn't to be a fulfillment center for people. The fact that there are people within, and Hegseth is like, listen, if you have a problem with this, then you can go. And you should go. And we thank for your service. It's a no hard feelings thing, but this is a shift towards the better. And the double-edged sword here, again, for the left and those that don't like these changes, on one hand, the more disruption and complaints that we may hear about, oh, there's anonymous, this many generals and this many that are just really upset by that. And the left sees that as, aha, see, they're wrong. No, the more of that, the more grumbling there is from within the military, the more people that complain about this return to the better standards that we hear about, the more crying, and that is a sign that this is the right move. That culturally, clearly, there needs to be a shift back to the previous standards. If there are people that are in the military and they're like, no, I mean, this is not good at all. We need to get back to focusing on equity and how it is that we can all get along and learn. Nope. You can find some other organization to be part of. Start your own if you want to. But that's not the purpose of the military. And I don't care what sort of discrimination is necessary, and discrimination is. There's discrimination on ability. It should be merit-based. And if it was somehow determined to a degree of certainty that people over the high, people 4 foot and taller were detrimental to the overall fighting ability and lethality of our U.S. military, then I'd say ban everyone over 4 foot. Whatever standards, whatever filtering out of people need to happen in order for the military to serve its purpose, then that's exactly what should happen. This should be a no-brainer, and it tells you how degraded the Democrats, when they control the military, how degraded they made it, and even our own expectations in this country, that this is anything other than everyone going, oh, well, yeah, we haven't been doing this? That's insane. The fact that you've got a significant portion of our population, and I don't think it's probably as big as the media would like to play it up to be, but at least the active chatterboxes out there on the left acting as if this is some sort of detriment to the United States of America, because diversity is our strength. It shows you how far they have degraded our expectations in this country. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see mostly sunny skies with a high near 88. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 62. For your Thursday, sunny with a high near 88. And taking a look at Friday, sunny with a high near 87.
Some of your text messages regarding the return to what I would argue, or would just better use a simple term, fitness standards that were once upon a time just the expectation for those in our military, and the left really pushing back on this. One of you texting, and nobody has the right to join the military. You have to meet standards to join, simply put. Another pointing out the military, the purpose is to kill people, break things. Hank, who is in Florida, texted in, when I was in the Air Force in the early 60s, President Kennedy, a Democrat, instituted fitness standards that we all had to meet. And another noting that I got out of the Navy in 2004, my physical requirements at 40 years old were tougher than an 18-year-old female. And this would all potentially be news to the gin-soaked heifers on The View, who just sat around perplexed yesterday, wondering why it is that Hegseth is just so obsessed with fitness when it comes to people in the military. And why is he fat shaming them? Joy Behar asking, why is he obsessed with fat and fitness, talking about requirements to be in the military? You had Alyssa Farah Griffin say, all of these people from different backgrounds, they come together and fight for American values. Like, again, these are just really great people. Why can't we, they're just, doing their best that they can. This is not a book club. This is not a club of affirmation where, and I know that's how the left operates. Well, as long as you mean well, as long as it's fulfilling to the person, to the individual, that's all that really matters. Nope, it doesn't. I mean, what a bunch of ignorant sows. Yesterday, as we prepared for the inevitable, and that being the shutdown of the government, which I just love it. It's so delicious. After a lifetime of watching the shutdowns be blamed on Republicans, regardless of who is in charge, it's just not working that way any longer. And Trump, I would argue, is largely responsible for that. It's about presentation, a lot of it. One of the reasons that Republicans have long been blamed for shutdowns, even when it was clear that it was the sole decision of Democrats at the time, was because of the way that Republicans behaved. They acted as if they were responsible for it by frantically doing everything they could in order to make sure that things didn't shut down, or if it came to chicken. And Democrats were very, very good about just seeming confident in, well, this is the Republicans shutting down the government, and Republicans would run around on defense. The narrative, with the clear help of the media, obviously, was one in which Republicans were blamed for this. They're going to shut down the government, and we would hear all the horrific stories about what that meant, and then Republicans would take the defensive posture. Well, no, you got to this and that and so forth. And so it just, the feeling, the inference that the average American got is, well, clearly they're not responsible for it, and they are. Well, Trump doesn't behave that way. Trump is like, no, they're shutting this down. And all of a sudden, they're just scrambling and tripping over themselves, and they're trying to blame Republicans, but a majority of Americans see this as a Democrat shutdown. Many recognizing that it is all about siphoning taxpayer dollars away from American health care in order to give it to illegals. And the media is doing what they can in order to try to negate that messaging, but they're just not able to do it. It's just not resonating. it is also, I think some, not all, but there's confidence that a lot of Republican voters have that they did not before whenever they see Trump taking that stance, but also hear a number of Republicans noting, and, Congressman Burleson on this program is one of them, this continuing resolution, this is Biden spending stuff. These spending levels are the spending levels that are in place because Democrats said this is the amount of spending we need. These are continuing resolutions. This isn't some new budget that Republicans came up with, slashing this and slashing that, and we're going to really tackle the deficit and get the spending under control. These are continuing resolutions from the Biden era. And when Republican voters recognize the reality of that, that also gives them confidence to online. I mean, I the things on social media, like 4 years ago, if there was the talk of a shutdown and it was the standard, Democrats, it's Republicans' fault, Republicans just playing defensive on it, there would not be a lot of pushback from the average Republican voters. But I saw on social media, for example, someone posting Republicans own this shutdown. And I mean, it was every comment underneath that person's social media was, no, it's not. These are Biden spending levels. This is the Schumer shutdown. Bam, 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 bam. And so it isn't simply the Trump presentation of confidence in this, but it's that trickle down confidence down to the voters. And people see that. Obviously, it's not going to win everyone over. Democrat voters that are part of the base, they don't care about the truth. It's irrelevant to them. But there are a lot of Americans that are really paying attention for the first time, and much of it is because of the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and they're really starting to pay attention to what each side says and then figuring out, okay, what's the truth here? And that benefits, in the current environment, Republicans. Because there really are not, I can't think of any issue that Democrats currently hold the monopoly of truth on. I'm not going to pretend as if Republicans are just the way, the truth, and the light. I mean, particularly when it comes to issues of spending, and they've been a great disappointment, oftentimes to their own voters. But when you're talking about this presentation that the Democrats are putting on, that, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. This is Biden budget. This is just continuing what you all put into place. And people who do just a little bit of research find that out. Also, it doesn't help. Well, I'm going to play Maxine Waters. She was asked about the funding of illegal immigrants by a reporter and whether or not it was really worth shutting down the government in order to give illegal immigrants free health care at the expense of the taxpayers. And, she pretty much stuck to her guns. That becomes a difficult thing for Democrats to overcome as well. Oh, and then just fantastic. I don't know if you saw the thing that Trump had posted of Hakeem Jeffries, the election denier, and Chuck Schumer coming out of the White House. And it was an AI-generated deal that he shared. It was just... It is funny in and of itself, but even funnier is whenever on MSNBC they ask Hakeem Jeffries, I mean, what do you think about this? And the response to it is just so perfect. And it's exactly what Trump wants. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you. Happy first day of October. Now, I know it doesn't feel like it this week, but that cooler fall weather, it'll creep in before you know it. So make sure that you get ahead of all of your furnace needs before it's a little too late. And if you need the name of a good company, I know a guy. And that guy is Russell with Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. Now, whether you need to schedule your just your annual maintenance, maybe you have a repair that needs to be addressed, or maybe it's time to finally upgrade to a new unit. The Foreman team, they do it all, and they also do residential and commercial work too. So if you are a business owner, they can help you out with all of your HVAC needs as well. So if it is time to have the Foreman team out to your home or to your business, reach out to Russell today. You can find all of the contact information for Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
Yesterday, Trump posted an AI-generated video of Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. You know, they had all met at the White House to discuss the possible prevention of the government shutdown. While there, Trump gave them Trump 2028 hats because, of course, he did. Well, I'm waiting to see. There was a picture, as sort of a side note. There was a picture of it, of that he's at his desk at the Oval Office, and you see Chuck Schumer there, and the hats are on the desk. Now, I'm waiting to see if any Democrats pitch a fit over him using taxpayer-funded entities or displays to campaign, because that's illegal. You can't do that. I remember Claire McCaskill, I don't think anything happened to her, but once she was doing an interview on one of the networks from the Capitol, and then she promoted, I believe it was her campaign website. What you cannot campaign on taxpayer-funded anything for understandable reasons. But Trump isn't campaigning because he can't run for president in 2028. So I'm waiting to I don't know if they will get distracted by that. It's partially why he does it, for his own entertainment. But if the Democrats are going to start complaining about him utilizing the Oval Office to campaign when he's clearly not campaigning because he can't run. There is no campaign for 2028. But that aside, afterwards, and this oftentimes happens with these meetings, you'll have the Democrats come out, the microphones are set up, they make a statement. You have the Republicans come out, they make a statement. In fact, we played the audio of each statement yesterday. J.D. Vance came out saying, yeah, I don't think there's going to be a deal here. Democrats seem insistent on shutting the government down. And then Chuck Schumer came out and talked about how some, mom whose daughter was dying of cancer cried to him because Trump was going to kill her. And someone took the visuals of Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and AI generated their statement. Now, Hakeem Jeffries, to give you the visual, he's standing there doing nothing other than wearing a sombrero with a big sort of mustache that one might think of as stereotypical Mexican mustache. And then Chuck Schumer does the talking in the AI video, and it went like this.
Nice. There's no way to sugarcoat it. Nobody likes Democrats anymore. We have no voters left because of all of our woke trans bullshit. Not even black people want to vote for us anymore. Even Latinos hate us. So we need new voters. And if we give all these illegal aliens free health care, we might be able to get them on our side so they can vote for us. They can't even speak English, so they won't realize we're just a bunch of woke pieces of shit, at least for a while, until they learn English and they realize they hate us too.
I don't know why. I think it's the wording, but my two favorite parts is when he says, even black people hate us. And then at the end, when he goes, and once they learn to speak English, and then even they're going to hate us too. So, of course, hilarious, funny. And incidentally, this is what I hope is sort of the peak of AI in terms of how it really has an impact on all of us. I know we've all been so concerned about deep fakes and how will we know what's real and what's not real. The way I look at it is if it makes everyone more suspicious, that's a good thing. But so far, the biggest cultural impact I think that AI has had is stuff like this that goes around. And to that point, Hakeem Jeffries on MSNBC being asked about this posting by President Trump.
Could you give us your reaction to that Trump posted video tonight?
It's a disgusting video, and we're going to continue to make clear bigotry will get you nowhere. We are fighting to protect the health care of the American people in the face of an unprecedented Republican assault.
Okay, so fortunately, the majority of Americans don't believe that anyhow. But part of this that is amusing, for some of you may be very frustrating and angering. These are the people that have falsely accused Trump of everything under the sun, that put a target on him by telling crazies that he's a fascist, that we'll never have another election again, that he's going to put political opposition in prison, that he is a Nazi, that he's Hitler. I mean, these people say the most vile and just straight up untrue things about Donald Trump. But he posted a funny AI video, and they're like, I mean, can you comment on this? I mean, what were your thoughts? This is just disgusting. I've never seen anything like. Oh, really? Poor election denier Hakeem Jeffries. They're just so appalled by this. How could he ever do? We're just so nice to him all the time. We do everything we can. We bend over backwards to make sure that his supporters understand that we're there to represent them too. And we may disagree on issues, but ultimately we're all Americans at the end of the day. And we constantly give the guy the benefit of the doubt. You can see in our coverage, every bit of analysis that's ever been done is 50-50, completely fair, right down the middle. For every negative story about Donald Trump, there's an equally negative story about a Democrat and vice versa. And I mean, we've just done everything we can to be accommodating to that guy. Can you believe he would repost a funny AI video about you? I mean, this is just beyond the pale. It has gotten to the point, if you are someone that still finds it angering to see that level of absurdity married to hypocrisy, just understand this. They have become so cartoonish and such a farce, a parody, that anyone who is really paying attention, they get it at this point. It's no longer subtle. Of course, they are still going to have a segment of the population that supports them because they have assimilated those people into surrendering their free thought, free will, critical thinking, and instead just, okay, I'm on your team, and so whatever you say goes. But that segment of the population out there, some of which are voting Democrats that are starting to pay attention and think for themselves, they see this stuff. And it really, truly is, if you 20 years ago, someone had decided to make a movie, a farce about how detached from reality and ethics and morality a political party had become, this is the exact sort of stuff that you would write up. Traffic update. I'm Nick Reed. I want to announce something regarding Pinnaker Honda that I've been aware of for probably under a week, but was embargoed on revealing it until today. And it is regarding what is being called the green tag sale. Now, this starts on Friday, and it goes through, it's on Saturday and then Monday. Of course, lots closed by law in Missouri on Sunday. So what does this mean? The prices on Friday, Saturday, and Monday on literally every single vehicle they have on the lot is going to be lowered just for those 3 days. And it will be lower. So if you think, well, I don't really need to go over there, I'll just visit their website. The pricing on the lot is going to be lower than what you see on the website. So you need to swing by either Friday, Saturday, or Monday in order to see what the actual deals are. Also, they're giving away an 85-inch TV at each of their stores, and you're automatically registered to win just by doing a test drive of a vehicle. So that's a pretty big deal as well. So I just, want to really press this, that if you have been even thinking about it, I'm telling you, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, Pinnaker Honda is the day that you definitely want to stop by for their big green tag sale. Springfield's Talk 104.1. Hello, everyone. My name is Nick Reed. Maxine Waters yesterday, she was on the steps of the Capitol. I don't even know what was going on over there, but a reporter from Real Lindell TV caught up with Maxine Waters and asked her about the government shutdown and the component of this in which Democrats are trying to get taxpayer-funded health care for illegals in the country.
Democrats want to prioritize the health care of illegal aliens in the government shutdown because if the government does shut down, Americans...
Excuse me, stop it right there. We're not prioritizing. What we're doing is saying simply we want to keep the government open and we want to work with the Republicans and have a bipartisan agreement to keep this government open, and health care is at the top of our agenda.
Democrats demanding health care for illegal aliens?
Democrats are demanding health care for everybody. We want to save lives. We want to make sure that health care is available to those who would die, but having the help of their government.
So you're good with the government shutdown, even if it means giving health care to people who aren't Americans?
Well, that's what you're pushing on. What you're trying to do is you're standing here and you're trying to make me say that somehow we're going to put non-citizens over Americans. Quit it. Stop it. This is the kind of journalism we don't need. You're divisive. No, you're not. You're being divisive. No, please. You don't need to ask that question. You're just trying to get controversy here. You're not going to get it from me. We want to save health care for all people. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Appreciate it.
I believe this is one of the leaders of the Democrat Party. All I can see is that wig on her head when I watch video of her any longer. And I flash back to that interview she was doing where her wig was crooked on her head. And
yeah, I know. The whole purpose of you playing that audio was not this, but it just it almost felt like another edition of Are They Drunk?
Yeah. How old is she? I know we've talked about this.
Old. Let me look it up.
There just seems to be this real age gap with the Democrats. You have these 87, these senile old people in leadership, and then you have the young psychotics, the AOCs and the Jasmine Crockett's and the real We Hate America crowd that is gunning to take over that leadership. There's no middle ground demographically, like age-wise speaking. You would think that the next generation of leadership would be at mid-50s or so, maybe even mid-60s. That would be young compared to much of the... And Maxine Waters, she is leadership within the Democrat Party. And, of course, Nancy Pelosi and Hakeem Jeffries, he's... I don't know. That guy is useless to the Democrats. He's great for Republicans. But this massive gap of like 50 years between what is current leadership and what is expected to be the next round of leadership, which are these insane anti-American psychopaths. Not that people like Maxine Waters, I mean, she's a nut job too. You just listen to her. And she just couldn't bring herself to do it. She couldn't, which is good. She couldn't bring herself to straight up lie. And I think almost out of arrogance, like, you're not going to force me into this corner of lying about illegal immigrants. And so she says, well, we just want to fund everyone, but make sure everyone in this country has health care. And, this is not the sort of journalism we need in this country. I got to tell you, what I would call the independent journalist, and I mean, like Real Lindell TV. I'm guessing that's Mike Lindell's thing. I have no idea.
So.
No clue. The Trump administration elevated so many of these news outlets that have long been ignored, and that has obviously not given them the same sort of exposure in the general public that the major media networks still get, the ABC, CBSs, all of those. But it certainly is enhanced, even if it's a confidence thing, and the sense that we belong here too. This is when in the press room they started opening up the seats and they started switching things around because the press themselves, they had this little cabal of people that ultimately chose who got to ask the questions, and then the White House like, we're not doing that any longer. So we're going to let Newsmax, and we're going to let these people and those people, and so what you get is oftentimes journalists asking Democrats the sort of taking the approach. These non-establishment journalists taking the approach with Democrats that Republicans have been dealing with from mainstream media for decades. This aggressive approach, this, not allowing them to just throw out some sort of talking point and then, oh, okay, thanks. The way that Maxine Waters, if this subject matter was even brought up, is accustomed to is, your Republican opponents are out there trying to claim that what it is that you're trying to do is to, to play on people's fears in the context of illegal immigrants and claiming that what you're wanting to do is to make taxpayers pay for health care for illegal immigrants. And then Maxine Waters would be able to just say, well, that's the sort of divisiveness that we're used to from Donald Trump and the sort of hate, blah, blah, blah. And then that would be the end of it. But you get real journalism from these people that are from some entities you've never even heard of, many of you, like Real Lindell TV. Now, I'm sure some of you have heard of it. I may have. Honestly, there are so many of these out there, which I think is actually a positive thing because you do now have the opportunity to hear these Democrats actually forced to answer the question as opposed to being asked a question in the context of, well, here's what those horrible Republicans are saying. What's your response? And then a response that's not a response, and then they move on. This, no, that doesn't answer the question. Do you still this? And it's a real benefit to the American people. And that's why Maxine Waters gets all kerfuffled, and we don't need this sort of I see what you're trying to do. Yeah, because you've watched all of the major networks do it to Republicans for decades. So it's kind of nice to live in a country where, while it may not be as mainstream, it still exists an equal approach for the Democrats from people asking questions that Republicans have been dealing with all this time. Nearly 2/3 of American voters say that the Democrats in Congress should not force the federal government shutdown if their demands are not met, according to a new national poll. And, of course, this is what has happened. A New York Times Siena poll also indicates that voters would blame Republicans and Trump as well as Democrats if the government shuts down at midnight Tuesday. But the other polling shows, particularly when it comes to the issue of illegal immigrants, they certainly are not on the side of Democrats. But let me tell you something. Even if the polling indicated otherwise, I believe Trump would stick to his guns on this because he recognizes the constant Republican approach of running away out of fear. We're going to be blamed for this. We're going to be blamed for that. Does not pay off in the long term. Proof of that? What is it now that Republicans are being accused of? The Democrats and the media are acting as if the continuing resolution is this awful, horrible thing. And, of course, Democrats are righteous for trying to, what they're claiming is stop cuts to health care, which, of course, is a lie. Now, the Republican establishment, why is it that we do not, as Americans, get real, meaningful budgetary reform? Why is it that we as Americans, when Republicans have long run on fiscal responsibility, why is it that we don't actually get that? Because Republicans are afraid of how they'll be labeled. They're afraid of running for re-election with the Democrat and the media casting them as slashing Medicaid or slashing this program. Well, what lesson are we learning now? Even when you don't do it, they blame you for they claim you're doing it anyway. This is a continuing resolution that is based off of a Biden Democrat budget. And you still get accused of slashing things. And it's a reason so many Republican voters become deflated and increasingly find themselves unenthusiastic, to say the least, with the Republican establishment, because the Republican Party will make, or at least they claim, that they make these concessions because, well, we'll be accused of doing this awful stuff if we don't, when we know you're going to be blamed for it anyway. Democrats could make a demand, Republicans could double it, and Democrats would still accuse them of slashing budgets. Latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First, meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see mostly sunny skies with a high near 88. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 62. For your Thursday, sunny with a high near 88. And taking a look at Friday, sunny skies with a high near 87.
Coming up, have some great Senator Hawley audio in which he tries to get a left-winger who was brought on as an expert. He's a gun grabber. The Democrats had him before a committee, and he had during, I believe it was the Obama years, he was in part of that administration, wanted to divert dollars from law enforcement to things like Two-Spirit Americans or whatever. And so Holly's like, what is Two-Spirit Americans? And this guy who wrote all of this up either didn't know or claimed he didn't know because he didn't want to admit what it was. And it's a good back and forth. We've got that coming up. First, I want to play Trump, though. This is before Democrats shut down the government at midnight last night, asking, before that happened, obviously, his thoughts about the potential shutdown.
They are shutting it down. We're not shutting it down. We don't want it to shut down because we have the greatest period of time ever. I told you, we have $17 trillion being invested. So the last person that wants it shut down is us. Now, with that being said, we can do things during the shutdown that are irreversible, that are bad for them and irreversible by them, like cutting vast numbers of people out, cutting things that they like, cutting programs that they like. And you all know Russell Vought. He's become very popular recently because he can trim the budget to a level that you couldn't do any other way. So they're taking a risk by having a shutdown because of the shutdown, we can do things medically and other ways, including benefits. We can cut large numbers of people out. We don't want to do that, but we don't want fraud, waste, and abuse. And, we're cutting that. But they want to have illegal aliens come into our country and get massive health care at the cost to everybody else. And we don't have it. And that's, I would say, the number one reason that they want to strike is to get illegal immigrants health care. And, Gavin Newsom wants that, too, in California, and it's destroying California. We can't have that. We're not going to let it happen.
Watching the Democrats just completely self-destruct and it's an amazing thing. This is a party that once upon a time you could just count on controlling the narrative. You could count on, they have the media on their side. And so they were so easily able to spread disinformation about what was going on and just to watch all of this. Even CNN has run audio. Actually, I don't think it was CNN, but there's audio going around. It's not hard to find of people like Chuck Schumer and other Democrats talking about how horrible government shutdowns are. And they may try and claim that Republicans shut it down, but the Republicans all voted to continue things. And in fact, 3 Democrats sided with Republicans in the Senate to keep government open by way of a continuing resolution. Now, at the same time, and you heard Trump mention Russell Vought here, and this is where some fiscal conservatives are pretty excited because he is the one who has the authority to, whenever the government, quote, shuts down, to decide, okay, where do resources go? And so as opposed to maybe Biden being in office when there was some shutdown and you can protect all of your left-wing money funneling non-governmental organizations that just, launder money back into Democrat campaign funds, it can go the opposite way. And there can be some changes made that are permanent. And Trump's like, hey, listen, this may be what happens. So it's the best of both worlds because what you can potentially end up here with is some actual, somewhat meaningful cuts to government in areas that aren't needed. And it's because of what the Democrats have done, and Democrats are increasingly viewed by the American people as being responsible for it. It's almost easy, I think, for Trump. And while Trump's first term was one that suggested he underestimated certain aspects of how Washington works, this second term is showing that he figured that out. But at the same time, Democrats they've never really had to deal with smart people who know how to maneuver this stuff. Who know when you're engaged in some sort of potential deal making, what if Democrats always, who has been the opposition? The Republican Party. And the last time the Republican Party demonstrated that they had any sort of solid ability to negotiate was in the mid-90s when Newt Gingrich was Speaker of the House and Bill Clinton was President of the United States. But after that, Republicans have never been a challenge for Democrats when it comes to this stuff. Well, Trump is a master at it. And I mentioned a few moments ago, it's just amazing watching Democrats self-destruct, but I guess it makes sense because they've spent years and years and years with an opposition that never really put up any meaningful fight. And then all of a sudden, they've got the grand master of deal-making at the helm. Coupled with the fact that because of his first term, he kind of figured out the nuances of Washington that perhaps he underestimated. It's almost entertaining to watch them flail around after years of really thinking that they were big shots when it comes to this stuff. They thought they were really, really good. I mean, they were masters of the universe when it came to all of this government shutdown stuff and the negotiating and coming out on top. But they thought it was because they were He-Man. When in reality, it's just they didn't have any real opposition. Well, now they're up against somebody that really knows what they're doing. And, I mean, look at them flailing around like a bunch of idiots. And then just for his own amusement, Trump throws out an AI of Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries poking fun at them, highlighting the fact that increasingly their decisions are leading to everyone hating the Democrat Party. And that's just, I mean, Trump is able to juggle all these things that are going on in the world right now. He's able to just almost dismissively force Democrats into this suicidal mission of theirs, and in the meantime, throw out an AI video for his own amusement and the amusement of Trump supporters. It really, when you understand the players and the context of it all, it is quite amusing. Wanted to share what Debbie said earlier this year regarding the work that Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor did for her and her family. We cannot express how thrilled we are with our backyard makeover led by Daniel Hunter. From the initial consultation to the final touches, Daniel displayed remarkable expertise, creativity, and professionalism. He patiently listened to our ideas and transformed them into a stunning outdoor space that perfectly suits our needs. The design features beautiful stonework, efficient landscaping, and a cozy seating area that has become our favorite place to unwind. The entire team at Hunter Hardscape was punctual, courteous, and dedicated to delivering exceptional quality. We've received countless compliments from friends and family, and our new backyard has become the highlight of our entire home. Thank you, Daniel, and the Hunter Hardscape team. We highly recommend their services to anyone. John and Debbie Setzer, and I echo all of that completely 100%. Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor. You can find them online, including reviews from people like Debbie there and also some before and after pictures of projects, a cost estimation calculator as well at hunterhardscapes.com and also under Nick's endorsements at KSGF.com. Coming up, Senator Josh Hawley leaving gun-grabbing former Biden staffer puzzled during a hearing with a question on what two-spirit people are. Some fun audio. That next, I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First, meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see mostly sunny skies with a high near 88. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 62. For your Thursday, sunny with a high near 88. And taking a look at Friday, sunny with a high near 87.
And I got this new search for Amelia Earhart's plane.
I saw that.
Yeah. I think Trump did. He
said he was going to declassify some documents regarding it.
I don't know that it really is great marketing for female pilots, that the most famous female pilot is one who crashed her plane.
Stop.
I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, maybe you ought to find somebody else to be the most famous woman pilot ever. That would just be my suggestion. Can you blame people for being a little worried? I don't worry about that sort of thing at all. I don't even bother to look who's in the cockpit. But, you can't blame some people. There may be nervous flyers when they're like, you know what, I think I'm going to do research on female pilots. And like the number one search that comes up is one who crashed her plane into the ocean, disappeared. Just a suggestion. Find someone new. Gun-grabbing former Biden hack caught off guard during a Senate hearing yesterday when his own words on defunding the police were read back to him. Got even worse when he invented a new word in a report and was left with no answer. Now, he didn't invent this term, I'll say that. And Josh Hawley is the one that is doing the questioning, and this is where Josh Hawley serves the people of Missouri, the U.S. Senate, and the American people very well, is when he is really questioning these people, because he forces them to, well, sometimes they don't answer questions, but he doesn't let them off the hook. The approach he's taking here is one of I'm genuinely trying to figure out what this term means because I don't know. Now, I think he knows what this means because he's an intellectually curious person, and I'm sure he looked it up. But this is the best approach to take. He's making the point here that either the person who, during the Biden administration, wanted to defund police and divert funds from police to two-spirited people, either forcing him to explain the absurdity of what that is or having him as an individual at least claiming he doesn't even know what it is, yet he recommended funding for it.
Comprehensive approach is defunding the police, which is what this says. The entire time. This is so typical of what the Democrats do now. After your policies have transparently failed and led to the deaths of millions of Americans, now you say you've never heard of defunding the police. Your own report recommends it on page after page after page. Let me ask you about something else you say. Here's what you say we ought to invest in. Instead of funding the police, here's what we ought to invest in. We need to invest in programs that acknowledge the need for safe space initiatives led by lesbian, gay, bisexual, two-spirit, trans, and gender nonconforming people. What's two-spirit?
Well, look, I don't know exactly. You guys are pulling some interesting quotes.
This is from your report.
If you look at the report, the focus is on investing in violence intervention, outreach workers.
What is you say that you shouldn't invest in the police, but we ought to invest in two-spirit community programs that acknowledge two-spirit.
Look, we are not going to discriminate against that. We're not going to discriminate against any nonprofit.
What is a two-spirit? What is two-spirit? You say don't fund the police, but do fund programs that create safe spaces for two-spirit people. What is? I just want to know. I don't know what that is. I have no idea what that is.
Well, I honestly, I'm not completely aware of the language or
you wrote the report.
But what I'm telling you is that what
is a two-spirit individual? I mean, really, this is your policymakers' playbook. You are the witness called by the Democrats on this committee, so I assume you reflect their views. Well, you don't want to fund the police. You want to fund safe spaces for two-spirit individuals. What is a two-spirit person?
I feel like I'm looking at a two-faced individual because you talk about reducing
violence. Oh, no, sir.
Violence.
You're looking at somebody who's reading your own words. I'd like to hear an answer. Here's the answer. The answer is you don't have any solutions. You want to invest in gobbledygook and take away money from police officers who actually keep our communities safe. And when you're called on the record, you deny it.
I think my favorite part is when the expert the Democrats called there, you could tell he really thought he was turning it around on him, on Josh Hawley. Like, I'll tell you what I'm looking at, somebody's two-faced. And then Hawley, no, you didn't. And just steamrolls right over the guy. Like, you could tell he thought, I'm really going to turn this thing around on him. That lasted half a second. There really is no one in the Senate that is as good at this as Josh Hawley is. Ted Cruz is really good. He's got some good exchanges, but Hawley is just like it's just like nails them. And when they just get the slightest moment of I can get out of this, I mean, nails them again and again, and it's like whack-a-mole. And Josh Hawley never ever misses one of the moles that pops up in the game. It's just incredible. Trey Gowdy on the House side used to be really, really good in same fashion. But I mean, yeah, this is where Josh Hawley totally shines. Now, two-spirit.
Did you look this up?
Yeah, and I had looked it up before because I think we've talked about this.
I believe we have.
And it was somewhat what I thought. So I pulled a definition. Now, it's a Wikipedia definition, but Wikipedia is left-wing. And two-spirit is a left-wing term, so I felt that this would be a site that gave what would be considered what the left would want the definition to be. And so it listed two-spirit is a contemporary pan-Indian umbrella term used by some indigenous North Americans to describe Native people who fulfill a traditional third-gender social role in their communities. Coined in 1990 as a primarily ceremonial term promoting community recognition, in recent years, more individuals have taken to self-identifying as two-spirit Two-Spirit as a term and concept is neither used nor accepted universally in Native American cultures. So this is almost, to me, the way this does describe it, acknowledges it's like the Latin X, in which it wasn't something that organically developed within the community that it is now assigned to, but a bunch of white liberals, started telling people this is what it should be. And so a very few on the left would adopt it, but ultimately it gets largely ignored by, in this case, the indigenous community. I did find also, I thought this was interesting, a site that was set up some time ago to push back on, and it was like a feminism site and a LGB site, and it was trying to really differentiate itself from a lot of the transgender hijacking that has occurred when it comes to this stuff. And it explained that this was a term that left-wingers came up with at some sort of LGBTQ event in Canada back in 1990, which Wikipedia does note that the term was coined in 1990. And apparently it was to replace an actual indigenous term for what were young Native Americans that were considered very feminine and perhaps even like homosexual. And whatever the original term was, translated, I think, to kept boy or something like that. And it was deemed by liberals that that was homophobic. And so they changed it to Two-Spirit. And that is apparently sort of the history here. That this expert either actually didn't know. I suspect who knows what these people know. You just don't know. Sometimes they don't even care. All they know is they're told, oh, these are some of the new terms that you need to respect, and they're like, okay, that works for me. But I love that that attempt to really pin him down and just not let up on him. No, you wrote it down. You're the one. That's good stuff there. Coming up, there have been some official numbers released regarding American Eagle and the ad campaign regarding Sydney Sweeney. Now, of course, you remember some of the reports about the stock going up and, certain numbers perhaps regarding sales, but enough time has gone by in which the CEO of American Eagle has done an interview with the Wall Street Journal, and they've got a real comprehensive sense of what impact that ad campaign with Sweeney actually had when it came to American Eagle. I thought I'd share that. Next, I'm Nick Reed. I want to jump back quickly to the conversation we're having, Josh Hawley and the two-spirit designation. And so we were talking a little bit about what it supposedly meant and the history of it. And so I think a very, good question would be like, well, now, what does that look like today? Because one of the things that the Trump administration did was get rid of a lot of that crap when it was on .gov websites, just eliminating it. And the two-spirit, the left has sort of created that, and it's supposedly indigenous people who embody multiple genders and so forth. So, but now if you go to, what is the Gov site?
So it is the Indian Health Service. That is the federal health program for American Indians and Alaska Natives. So I clicked on that because I was looking for the definition for your must-read headlines, and I thought, oh, that's a .gov.
Right, yeah.
I'll click on it. So you click on it. It's got a giant red banner. It says notice, and it's got like a little description here now before you enter the website. It says, per a court order, HHS is required to restore this website as of 11:59 p.m. February 14th, 2025. Any information on this page promoting gender ideology is extremely inaccurate and disconnected from the immutable biological reality that there are two sexes, male and female. The Trump administration rejects gender ideology and condemns the harm it causes to children by promoting their chemical and surgical mutilation, and to women by depriving them of their dignity, safety, well-being, and opportunities. This page does not reflect biological reality, and therefore the administration and this department rejects it.
It's amazing the differences that and the alterations that had to occur when you go from an administration that just let anyone who wanted to create these fantasy worlds redefine things, and then getting back to reality and just essentially having to put, listen, we're going back to reality here. That's essentially what that said. But, to the point, you think about it. So this all came up because of, Josh Hawley, and there was the Senate hearing on, gun control or something, and Democrats brought this guy on as an expert, and so Hawley noted that he, while in the Biden administration, was pushing to defund police, and then instead, putting it towards safe spaces for gay and lesbian and this, and Two-Spirit was one of them. You think about the difference in the caliber of people in the Trump administration versus the Biden administration. It was really like they just would hand these jobs out to anyone. Just any random, as long as they were nutty. Or the guy that was in some sort of position of authority, I think when it came to nuclear power and nuclear weapons, he wore dresses, shaved his head, and stole luggage from airports. I mean, no qualifying merits to actually hold the job. And they just, it's almost like the bigger freak show we can create, the more accomplished we are. When you realize that the left sees people as collectibles, then you can start to formulate an understanding how it is that they pick people for these positions. I really realized this when we were looking back on the press releases for the hiring of people in authority in terms of firefighters out in California that were in charge of the debacle, those fires that took place. And you would go through these press releases, and in order, it was like, oh, and the new fire chief is the first Korean this, and then the next one, oh, the first this, and then the first that. And it's as if every hiring had to have some sort of superficial aspect to them that they hadn't hired before. It's like that's an accomplishment to them. If you are on the left and you're in a position of hiring, Well, let's see here. I mean, I could hire a black person, but that's been done. I could hire this. Oh, what about a has anybody ever, have we ever had a two-spirit hire before? No? Okay, I'm going to do that one. And these administrations or these department heads on the left, it's like collectibles. You know, when you were a kid and you would, back then the Happy Meals, and there'd be every week would be a different collectible. Maybe it's the Muppets, or Burger King did the Muppet glasses, and it was all about, you wanted to collect as many different ones as possible. If you got one you already had, you were disappointed. And that's how the left views people. They're like precious moments, figurines. Whomever has the widest variety, whomever has the biggest collection is the winner in their minds. And they give each other awards for it. I mean, is it any wonder our country was on the track that it was on, as we would shake our head and be like, how can these people continue to be such miserable failures in a meaningful way? Well, look at how they hire people. Just willy-nilly, the weirdest weirdo that hasn't ever, that's creating a new category of hire that no one's ever done before. I'm the first one to ever hire somebody in this category. And that's how you end up with a rudderless ship. And then talk about whiplash. You then go to someone like Trump, who couldn't care less about that superficial stuff. All he cares about is, do you do the job, and do you do it well? That's all that matters. Complete 180. All right, coming up, the new data, comprehensive data on the impact that the Sydney Sweeney ad campaign had for American Eagle. Pyramid Roofing Company text line. Maybe a two-spirit person would be, this is before we really got into the definition of it, incidentally. Maybe a two-spirit person would be considered a woman who's pregnant and the unborn child. Now, that is the approach of a logical person that's trying to figure out if a normal person were to come up with that terminology. The mistake here is the failure to recognize that lunatics came up with the term. So that's the disconnect. And this is the problem that we as normal people have when we try, as noble as the effort may be, when we try to just take apart and understand the mind of lunatics. New data confirms American Eagle got last laugh in the Sydney Sweeney ad debate. Now, of course, at the time, there were different news reports about the potential impact, and then you had stock coverage, and oftentimes that can be just about speculation. And there was a lot of focus on it for a number of reasons, and that was because American Eagle appeared to be the first company that just stood up and said, you know what, we're tired of this crap. You had the lunacy of the left that was portraying the play on words about I got good genes to Hitler, because that's the go-to. It's like the only historical figure the left knows, and they don't even know much about him. They have no clue he was actually a socialist. There was the German Socialist Workers' Party. They just know he was really bad, so that's their go-to, to call anything and everyone they don't like. And American Eagle, and also Sydney Sweeney, just like Sydney Sweeney didn't even acknowledge it. American Eagle pretty much didn't acknowledge it. It's just like we're just going to move forward with it. So Jay Schottenstein, who is American Eagle's CEO, explained to the Wall Street Journal how he took the keep calm approach with his marketing team in the face of public pressure from the lunatic left. The chief executive officer resisted pressure, this is the Wall Street Journal, on social media to pull its provocative ad campaign, featuring Sydney Sweeney telling his charges to remain calm in the face of accusations that the brand was promoting racist and sexist tropes, according to a report. In the weeks that followed, the campaign proved to be a hit, bringing in almost 1 million new customers to American Eagle between July and September alone, according to the Wall Street Journal. Demand spiked for specifically featured items. The Sweeney cinched waist denim jacket sold out in a single day. And the Sydney jean that she was advertising sold out nationwide in a week. American Eagle stock would soar nearly 40% after the clothing chain credited the risque Sydney Sweeney ad campaign with supercharging sales at the time, even as the spot sparked outrage, so forth. Executives told Wall Street Journal analysts that the campaign featuring the Euphoria star billed as Sydney Sweeney as great jeans drove record traffic and unprecedented new customer sign-up. So while there was acknowledgement at the time, they were seeing in a palpable way the increase in traffic. Looking back on the actual numbers, more than 1 million new customers and selling out of products that were attached to her, some in a single day. Yeah, see, that's the real America. We've been so used to social media algorithms and people on the left and Hollywood telling us what real America is. But that was real America. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. She is an opportunity for you to know what it's like to have a personal assistant. Be like a Kardashian or, lots of other rich people with personal assistants that just take care of things for you. Now, generally, that's not what one expects when it comes to realtor. If you're looking to sell your home or maybe find one and buy one, oftentimes it's show up, put up a sign, let people in, let you in, meet you over here at a certain time. And that's pretty much the extent of it. You just got to read the reviews. People have utilized Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty, and you will see she is so much more than that. She is like you're full-blown, you're really, really rich, and you have your own assistant. That is the level of care you get, whether it is when it comes to, let's say you're selling your home, and the potential buyers have 4 or 5 different things that they need you to do, termite control, you need to have that sidewalk lifted because of a crack, and so forth. And you're like, well, I know these people are out there, but I don't know who, and I don't want to be taken advantage of. Are they going to be good? She knows all that stuff. She can arrange that stuff. She can get you the information if you want to arrange it yourself. She can help you out. This is what she does. She is an absolute 100% full service above and beyond anyone else. Home buying, home selling, Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. This is not an article from Trump's first administration. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker accuses President Trump of having dementia, calls for 25th Amendment to be invoked. Can you guys not come up with something different? I mean, I guess this is what happens when you use up all of your big guns in the beginning. Oh, he's got dementia. Like, you think of the worst case scenario thing that you can throw out there so people really begin to appreciate how awful Trump is. And he's got dementia. He's Hitler. He's going to cancel elections. Well, when you use that stuff up early, you don't really have anything left. And I think about, certain video games that you play that require you the usage of, strategery. You got certain weapons. You got the big weapon, but you want to hold them back. I know as somebody, I'm a mission guy. I don't do the online play, but either Battlefield games or Call of Duty. And, you got the missile launcher and you got so many, and I'm like, gosh, do I really? Yeah, I could use it here, but I want to save it. I'm one of those guys. Like, want to save. I'm very conservative with the usage because I don't want to use it all up too early. And because of that, oftentimes I would end up never using it or only using part of the big guns, if you will. And the Democrats have taken the opposite approach when it comes to Donald Trump, and they just threw all in their hysteria, their lack of self-control, their toddler-level temper tantrums. They threw out all of the sky is falling stuff so early on. It's like, really? You're going to go back to the 25th Amendment thing? We're really doing that again? And to the point I made during the first term when they were talking about the need for the 25th Amendment, what does that say about those of you that Trump runs circles around? Biden, we know in retrospect, which, incidentally, I have a follow-up story about some of the note cards that, you'd hear about him using note cards. Evidently, some of these have been discovered. Wait till you see what was on them. We know now when it came to Biden, people were prevented from seeing him. He wasn't part of numerous meetings. He wasn't signing off on things. It was auto pin. He wasn't even the one giving permission at times for the auto pin. He was kept out of as much as possible. And when it was impossible to keep him out of things like G summits and NATO alliance, visits and so forth, the world leaders would take turns being assigned to him to take care of him. Trump is, of course, the opposite. He engages as much as possible with the media included. Have these 3-hour-long press conferences where he'll just sit and answer questions all day long. He has these meetings. I mean, just look at the situation with the continuing resolution. I mean, he's running circles around the Democrats. So if Donald Trump is so incapacitated mentally that he needs the 25th Amendment invoked, or we as a country do, according to the latest Democrat governor of Illinois, Pritzker, what does that say about your people? What does that say about your party? That he is eviscerating you all. I don't know if you you realize the perceptual implications of trying to convince the world that the person who constantly whoops you all is a guy that you claim doesn't even have, the cognitive ability to run the office of the presidency. That's not a good look on you. If that's supposed to be bad on him, that's worse on you. Now, the uncovered Biden note cards, we'll talk about that here in just a moment, and it's perfect. I put these two stories back to back. The hilarity of, again, they all circled the wagon for Joe Biden. They all ran around saying that guy was perfectly fine, fit as a fiddle, sharpest guy in the room, and yet another revelation that, of course, he was even potentially worse than many of us thought. Yeah, but Trump needs the 25th Amendment.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see mostly sunny skies with a high near 88. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 62. For your Thursday, sunny with a high near 88. And taking a look at Friday, sunny skies with a high near 87.
Streaming live, KSGF.com. This Friday had a text in on the Pyramid Roofing Company text line asking if we will be at Scramblers Friday or Happy Hour. No and no. Friday, it's our annual Farm Fest. This is our second annual. We did Farm Fest for the very first time last year, and it was such a huge success. We will be doing it again this year. So we will be doing the Friday show out at Farm Fest. And we're going to actually be out there all day long. And so there will not be a happy hour also. But we'll let you know about any future happy hours. We're looking at maybe changing things up just a bit when it comes to some of that stuff. Keep it fresh. Keep you all engaged and excited. And once those, if there are any sort of changes that take place, we'll let you know. But for this Friday, with Farm Fest being kicked off, it's going to be a Farm Fest focused Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Former President Joe Biden frequently relied on palm cards as cheat sheets during press events throughout his presidency, often cited as evidence of cognitive decline. In a Tuesday report, Fox News revealed that Biden used these aids to help him remember people like Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and Hillary Clinton. This is how bad off he was. We're not talking about note cards when, Biden makes a stop in Traverse City, Michigan, and he's doing a town hall, and the local mayor is there, and maybe some county commissioners, people that are lifelong loyal Democrat activists, but he's never met them. And so or maybe he has met them, but he can't be expected to remember these people because he meets lots of people. Hillary Clinton and Chuck Schumer. Governor Pritzker is another one of Illinois. Let's see, who else? Some of these people on the list you and I wouldn't necessarily know, but obviously Denzel Washington. Remember George Clooney? That report came out. He didn't remember who George Clooney was? Yeah, so you've got JB, some of the names that you would, the entire Pritzker family, Hillary Clinton, and it has her listed. This is...
Do they have photos, too?
Yeah, photos, too.
Oh,
See?
wow.
Yeah, I printed it off. It's a picture of Hillary Clinton, and then it notes, Hillary Clinton was the Secretary of State in the Obama administration. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, Senate Majority Whip Dick Durbin of Illinois. Also, one of the cards that was discovered was a picture of ABC News journalist Mary Bruce with a handwritten note saying question number 3, and the question that she was going to ask him, which means that the press was in on this. Do you think that the media, in their relationship with Donald Trump, has to pre-submit their question, get it approved, and then Donald Trump is given the question along with the answer? Yet again, yesterday, J.B. Pritzker saying Donald Trump needs the 25th Amendment. So the one card in terms of a Q&A with the media, Mary Bruce, ABC News, question 3, 2024. How do you view the path forward, and how do you think about your place in history? And then it's got, Speaker McCarthy / debt limit. Depending on what happens with the House vote on the Speaker's debt limit bill tomorrow, how do you anticipate moving forward? These are, the questions that he's being asked. And so, again, this is the whole time that the media was out there running cover for him, and the aftermath when it became clear that some people were beginning to admit the lie, and you had these folks in the media acting as if they too were betrayed. We just can't believe this. I mean, we all feel so fooled. You people knew. I mean, it's not to rehash that whole thing again, but just this brings it all back to the surface now that we're seeing some of these note cards that have been uncovered, in which Biden was given the picture of the journalist and their name, and then the question and the answer. This means they had to submit those questions. They knew what was going on. In addition to the fact, obviously, we all saw it. And they clearly have access to people and information we don't. And for them to have spent all of that time for the purposes of altering the outcome of the election, lying to the American people about the cognitive ability of Joe Biden, or at the very least, lying by omission, pretending as if this wasn't an issue. The outlet reported that 5 palm cards were found in an investigation of National Archive documents and Biden's liberal use of the presidential auto pen to sign various orders. 4 of them were reportedly stamped "President has seen," indicated that they were, in fact, used by Biden. On the 5th card, an ABC News reporter's question for the president was given to him in advance, demonstrating that the White House staff was working in collaboration with the media during that time. Will Ricciardella, Fox News' managing editor of politics, noted in a thread posted on X, these weren't casual notes. 4 of them were officially stamped "President has seen," which indicates they were formally vetted material, not just scribbles. He added some cards carried full bios and photos of lawmakers. Others flagged lesser-known figures or anticipated media questions. They appear designed to cue recognition during public events. According to independent journalist Stephen L. Miller, Axios' national political correspondent Alex Thompson referred to the ABC News note cards as a, quote, one-time deal. Miller, however, differed in a post on X, writing, quote, "It should be the biggest media scandal in a generation. The entire White House press was coordinating their questions with the Biden White House, not just one person." In a July 24 press release announcing subpoenas to Biden aides, House Committee to Oversight and Accountability Chairman James Comer referenced aides such as note cards indirectly as part of an effort to manage Biden's public appearance. Quote, "These aides were responsible for scripting and controlling the president's limited public interaction to conceal his cognitive decline." While not quoting the palm cards verbatim, the committee's accompanying report cited examples of Biden using detailed note cards and photos and bios of attendees for events, such as meetings with people like Hillary Clinton and Senator Chuck Schumer back in 2003. White House spokesperson or spokeswoman Taylor Rogers responded to the scandal, telling Fox News Digital yesterday, quote, "President Trump gives unfettered access to the media and answers every question imaginable without pre-screening the press questions or collecting reporter palm cards ahead of time like his incompetent predecessor." Adding, "Unlike Joe Biden, President Trump is actually running the country, and he doesn't ever shy away from taking on the fake news to deliver the truth." And here's a shocker for some of you. There are people out there, because I know some of them, who to this day believe that Joe Biden throughout his presidency was perfectly fine and that all of this was just made up stuff. This is one of the real problems, honestly, not to get too far off on the algorithm aspect of things. But this is how monumentally damaging social media sites with algorithms that just tell you what you want to hear have been to this country, and how it has allowed some people who don't necessarily seek out the truth to build a prison of isolation around themselves, to where things that are common knowledge for people who are out there in the real world paying attention, to them just don't exist. I mean, it's just they have no clue. There are people out there who still think that the Russian collusion hoax was a real thing, that don't know Hillary Clinton is the one who paid for that dossier to be created. Or again, who still to this day think, nope, Joe Biden, he was what? There's no evidence that anything was wrong with him. I know it's virtually impossible for you and me and the people that we associate to even comprehend that. We think, well, they have to have known. I'm telling you, you'd be shocked at how ignorant people have allowed themselves to be by utilizing social media that has algorithms that only feeds them what they want to hear and see, and then their willful decision to only communicate with people on social media that agree with them and get their news from the mainstream media outlets who are, who have the same sort of problem. Knowing as bad as it was, there's still something, though, about learning that there was the discovery of these palm cards that even had Chuck Schumer and Hillary Clinton and their pictures on them for Joe Biden so that he would recognize them. Good Lord. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. Couple text messages here real quick. I wonder if Biden's cheat cards will be kept for National Archives of the Biden Library. Are they classified documents? Well, that's where they evidently found this batch of them. It was from the National Archive. On the issue of the 25th Amendment for Trump, which Pritzker of Illinois, the Democrat governor there, is hilariously brought back up. Does this brilliant governor really believe that the Democrats would have more control over J.D. Vance? I think not. Listen, Trump has got these Democrats bouncing off the walls, and they just do not think there's no logical bone in their body, and they demonstrate it day to day. I mean, they are just instant gratification fulfillers, and so they just say what makes them feel good at the time, not thinking about the implications of if those things actually occurred. And what is the shirt Sarah has on? What does that mean? I don't.
It's a band.
Okay, there you go. What band is it? I can't see over there.
It is A Day to Remember.
Oh, all right. So there you go. Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you. The Pyramid Roofing Company, fall is here, and that means here soon we will start to see more stormy weather and falling leaves and fluctuating temperatures, all that good stuff. All of those things, they can take a toll on your roof, and that can actually cause some smaller issues, and if left untreated, they can quickly turn into big, expensive issues. That is why I want to recommend Josh and his team over at the Pyramid Roofing Company. Now, the Pyramid team, they offer free roof inspections to help you catch a lot of those problems early on. Plus, they also offer discounts for our military and our first responders on new roof installs. So, if it is time to have the Pyramid Roofing Company team out to your home, reach out to Josh and schedule that free roof inspection. Now, you can find all of the contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at KSGF.com.
On Biden's note cards, text just coming in. Maybe if Bill Clinton would have had a Hillary card, he wouldn't have mistaken Monica for her. Oh, I think he knew very well that Monica was much, much different than Hillary.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozark's first meteorologist, Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see mostly sunny skies with a high near 88. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 62. For your Thursday, sunny with a high near 88. And taking a look at Friday, sunny skies with a high near 87.
We talked earlier in the show about the AI video that Trump had sent out. And this was after Chuck Schumer and election denier Hakeem Jeffries left the White House. And then Schumer goes out. He's talking to the media about how Trump is going to kill kids with cancer and so forth. And so Trump puts on Truth Social an AI version in which Chuck Schumer is talking about how much that everyone hates the Democrat Party because we're so woke. Even black people hate us. We're going to give illegals free health care so that they like us at least, or at least until they learn to speak English and realize that we're full of crap, and then they hate us too. And so it's just really hilarious. And at the same time, Hakeem Jeffries is just standing next to him with a cartoon sombrero and overly cartoonish mustache on. So then we played on MSNBC audio of he's one of their idiot hosts over there, asking Hakeem Jeffries his thoughts on the fact that the president would send something out like that. And he responded that this sort of bigotry won't resonate with the American people or some crap like that. Well, anyway, there's no point in really, I'm just explaining this to you because it's funny, but then to make another point. The audio isn't going to do much for you, but Trump's response to that was to post on social media Hakeem Jeffries talking about how, this is bigotry and how awful Trump is. And while he's talking, the cartoon sombrero appears on his head with the mustache. And then Trump, as 4 separate mariachi players, pop up behind him playing music. And, of course, it's hysterical. This is Trump, in juggling everything that he is juggling, manages still to entertain. And I think about this compared to Gavin Newsom just sadly, pathetically trying to mimic what Trump does with the memes and with the it is sad. It is so incredibly sad. It's pathetic. Gavin Newsom, who is supposed to theoretically, at the very least, be one of the front runners for the Democrats in terms of a presidential nominee, though who knows, they may once again go through the motions, have everyone vote, and then change their mind and say, no, we're going to pick someone else for you. But right now, he's considered one of the favorites. And he's trying to mimic this thing that Trump does. It doesn't work, and they won't let go of it. I think they've been doing this for weeks now. If you haven't been aware of it, they just decided at some point they're going to copy what Trump was doing, thinking in terms of memes and just, Trump a lot of times he'll do the all caps and exclamation points. And so they're going to start mimicking that. Now, I don't know and I don't even know if they know, if this was just supposed to be found as funny, if it was supposed to upset Trump, if it was supposed to make Gavin Newsom's postings as popular and as viral as Trump's, but none of that has happened. In fact, I bet the majority of people who have viewed and shared any of those postings from Gavin Newsom are Trump supporters that are just mocking Newsom for desperately trying to be Donald Trump. And, you just can't pretend to be someone else and expect to get the same results as that person does for being their authentic self. But those memes are funny. Let's see here. I'm just kind of grabbing a couple random text messages here, but just in the mood to do so. Send from the app. There's chalk writing on MSU campus that says pro-choice with a question mark. Join MSU Dems. With the room number and info, I want to print a QR code to real facts about abortion and tape it on the ground next to it. Yeah. They're probably performing abortions themselves in whatever room it is. Probably get extra credit for it as well with some of their classes. Yesterday, a couple of big announcements made. Well, numerous big announcements were made. One regarding prescription drugs. And I'll play, Trump made some statements about it and the investments that Pfizer specifically is going to be making into the United States and how it is that moving forward, all new medications introduced by Pfizer to the American market will be sold at the, quote, most favored nation cost, so that we will be essentially paying what other countries are paying. $70 billion in investment will see drug manufacturing moving back to America. Now, he was asked by a reporter, well, what about all the other drug companies? And he said that that in the upcoming weeks, the expectation is that he would be meeting with some of those leaders as well in order to work similar deals. Regarding the deal, here is the CEO of Pfizer yesterday.
So it's an historic day because I think today we are turning the tide and we are reversing an unfair situation. For years, other rich nations refused to pay the fair share for the medical innovation. And as a result, Americans had to assume disproportional cost on their shoulders. This situation, we all knew, is not sustainable. The situation is a situation that many wanted to change, but no one could. This is changing today with this agreement. With this deal that we signed today, we satisfied all four President's requests, all four. The big winner of this deal clearly will be the American patient. There is no doubt about it. They are the ones that will see significant impact in their ability to buy medicines. But I would argue that it is not the only winner. I think who else is a winner here? It is American innovation and American economy.
All right, so there's two components to this. One is the approach of government yeah, they aren't price controls, but price equity maybe. And whether or not this is the proper role of government when it comes to a free market system, and I'm going to touch on that in a moment. But the first part of this is the political aspect of it. And this is Donald Trump once again doing what Donald Trump does, and that is taking actual meaningful steps on something that all past presidents in modern history have said they're going to do but don't. I don't know about you, but I can't tell you how long I've been, hearing that, elect me, we're going to do something about prescription drug prices. We're going to do something about prescription drug prices. We're going to do something about prescription drug prices. Trump, on a individual level, targeted the insulin situation for diabetics, made a significant difference there in his first term. And then Biden, I don't know if it was an extension or a re-up, but he tried to pretend as if it was his thing that he did. Because just grappling for anything that even looked like a minor success. And the only thing he could really find was something that Trump did. And even Democrats tried to, in some part, campaign on that as proof that the Biden administration and Democrats were doing something to help the average working person when it comes to prescription drugs. But in terms of a full-scale industry approach, this is the first actual meaningful series of steps that we are going to be seeing here, starting with Pfizer. Now, what about the free market part of it? This is where things get more nuanced than the simple concept of free market, because the marketplace for these prescription drug companies is the entire world. And in order to have access to many of these markets, those countries, they have price controls. And so they require the drug makers, these drug companies, to make the drugs accessible to their marketplaces at a specific, so they do use price controls. This is one of the reasons in the 90s there was this, big, uneducated, frankly, push to, people were importing their drugs from Canada, and they're like, this is outrageous. These are the exact same drugs we have here, but they're some, cheaper. This doesn't make sense. Well, it made sense if you understood the fact that Canada had price controls. And so in order for these companies to sell their drugs in the Canadian marketplace and to have access to those millions and millions of people was to have that artificially low price. And that's why that was occurring. Well, where do you make up for those dollars? It can be a number of different places, but one of them largely was seen as the United States of America, because we don't have the price controls and everyone else does, or at least a massively significant portion of the world population does. Then they use us to make up the difference. Trump apparently has figured out a way to convince the drug companies to stop doing that. He has been, I think, somewhat clever also as opposed to saying, hey, we're going to put price controls in place, saying we just want to be treated like all the other countries. And all of these other countries that have this most favored, status in terms of pricing, you just got to do that for us as well. And apparently whatever was the offering to make that happen or the punishment for not doing it was enough for Pfizer to be the first one in line saying, okay, we'll do it. What exactly all those details are, I imagine some of that will come out. Much of it will be long and complicated and boring, and so most people won't ever even bother to learn about it. What ultimately is going to make the difference to the consumer is whether or not they see a meaningful difference in the cost of their prescriptions. And time's going to tell on that. Now, so where are they going to make up that money? And that's what I will be curious to know. Does this mean that they're going to figure out a way to have to raise the prices in other countries to some degree? Are they going to cut down on research and development, which if that's the case long term, that's not positive because that means less discoveries of groundbreaking drugs that can extend the life of a person or perhaps even cure diseases. That's the downside of suppressing profits or suppressing the ability of these companies to make more money for research and development purposes. But when it really comes down to it, for the average person going to the pharmacy, what's going to matter is what they're told the cost is going to be. And then, of course, you have the aspect of insurance. A lot of people, and many of you, probably your insurance, if you have insurance, covers prescriptions. So will you even see a difference? Is this only going to be a difference that is seen by those that don't have insurance, or will it also be felt by those who do have insurance? And so there's going to be, different people on different medications are going to feel this differently. How it is that the media and the Democrats decide to ridicule and criticize this and downplay it, that is yet to be seen. Right now, they're all in a kerfluffle over the fact that most Americans really see this government shutdown as something that the Democrats are responsible for, all in the name of forcing taxpayers to pay for health care for illegals. And, that's a real messaging issue that they're trying to tackle right now. So when they have their head above water, just even for a brief moment to address this, it's going to be interesting to see what their position is. In addition to the 100,000 other things that Donald Trump was doing, including the fantasy things that Democrats think he spends his time doing, like getting late-night talk shows that cost the hosts that cost the networks, tens of millions of dollars with really nothing in return. He had a signing in the Oval Office. And this was effort to speed up pediatric cancer research by doubling investments into the efforts. Now, there really hasn't been much discussion as to why this even has to be done, given Biden's promise he was going to cure cancer if elected president. Did never happen. But here's Trump from the Oval Office, and he's surrounded by kids, some of which currently are fighting cancer, others that are survivors along with their families.
In 2019, I was proud to launch the Childhood Cancer Data Initiative. And I think Stephanie was a big factor, right, Linda? She was a big factor as to what we're doing right now. Absolutely. Which invested $50 million a year into pediatric cancer research. And today, in line with recommendations made by Secretary Kennedy and the MAHA Commission, we're doubling that investment, adding another $50 million to Childhood Cancer Data Initiative. We're doing that immediately. And we have a lot of money coming in with the tariffs. We've never had money like this coming in. We're a rich country again. We were a dead country 1 year ago, and now we're the richest country. We're hot. We're a hot country. So it's an honor to do that. In honor of all of you, we're doing that, okay? With this order, I'm also directing the federal government to fully utilize artificial intelligence to supercharge pediatric cancer research. It's pretty amazing what's happening. For years, we've been amassing data about childhood cancer, but until now, we've been unable to fully exploit this trove of information and apply it to practical medicine. Using cutting-edge AI, we will empower scientists and researchers to discover new treatments, cures, and prevention strategies. AI can also make groundbreaking trials and therapies, and it's just going to be so accessible to everybody, families all across the country. So it's going to be amazing. What's happening is amazing.
I've been trying to figure out how it is that Democrats are now going to support kids having cancer, given that Trump is fighting this. But I think I figured out an approach for them, and that is to take, because you know how they like to sort of reword things. And so you've got Trump here, and he's moving forward the efforts to fight cancer that affects kids, and they can take that as Trump is trying to fight kids with cancer, and then look at that, Donald Trump's out there admitting that he's beating up kids with cancer, that he's out there actually fighting kids, that he wants to fight kids and encouraging people to fight kids who have cancer, and that could be one angle that the left will take. I don't know if that'll be the one, but they've got to figure out some way that this is a bad thing for you know what? I failed to check the history of Hitler fighting cancer. Like, did Hitler have any sort of initiatives in order, if not even cancer, maybe some sort of childhood diseases? That's probably it. You know who else tried to fight diseases that killed kids? It was Hitler. We're talking about Farm Fest, going to be out there, as is Lori Rook, Ozarks elder law, big focus on farms. So many people, they sell the farm to pay for nursing homes or other expenses associated with nursing home care. Family farm gets sold off because they're told, well, you're too rich. You have all these assets to get qualified for Medicare. Ozarks elder law, they can build a strategy where you do not have to get rid of that family farm. It can be passed down generation to generation, but you need their guidance on that. Consultation's absolutely free. Help save that farm. Ozarks elder law, 10 area locations, and you can set up that free consultation. Just go to their site, ozarkselderlaw.com. Want to play a bit of audio, sweet audio. 16-year-old cancer survivor yesterday talking to President Trump in the Oval Office regarding his initiative to speed up efforts in order to find cures for pediatric cancer.
How about you back there, Dad?
Actually,
I'd like my daughter to speak. We
Oh,
love her.
I think that much fun.
I'd like to speak. She's like,
Like, let's see.
When I was 4 years old, I was diagnosed with Ewing sarcoma, a pediatric bone cancer. 11 years later, I'm now 16 years old, and I'm doing great. What you're doing today, Mr. President, means that kids like me will get better options and so much more hope for the future. This will help doctors use technology to find cures faster, match patients to trials more quickly, and give our families more control over our health. For kids, every day counts. This order shows that our lives matter enough to be first in line for innovation. On behalf of children and young adults with cancer, those still fighting and those in remission like me, and families who wish that they had more time together, thank you for making us a national priority. Mr. President, because of actions like this, kids like me have the chance to grow up, to chase our dreams, and to live full lives. And that is the greatest gift anyone could ever give.
Wow. That is so cool.
There were also some other kids that spoke, and that particular girl there had most of that was just off the cuff or memorized. She did have a note card she just glanced to a couple of times, and I thought, it's nice to see, because even so many adults today, they just read the stuff off cell phones, and so it was refreshing to see that. Good conversation in the Oval Office. Glenn Beck coming up next. I'm Nick Reed.